So this is a nice little tutorial that can help maybe aid in setting up for the Line Em Up Breakout EDU. So obviously you're going to need your kits, but this is just the introduction for it, and it simply just talks about line them up. Some random lines seem to be showing up on students' homework and all around the school on the walls. It seems the 8th grade students have been learning about linear equations and someone is trying to get them in trouble. In order for the students to not take the blame, they have to figure out who is doing it. The only clue is locked inside the large box, and you have to solve the puzzles in order to open the locks. Good luck. So that's just the introduction page, and I would have that in an envelope or a folder just to kind of do that. You can read that at the beginning. And then this next paper that's still within this file, it says, I teach, what's your superpower? That's the clue, basically, to say that the teacher themselves is the one in which who is drawing these lines. So that helps them out. Within this same folder that you should be able to look at, it should have for you the description of this entire thing. It, of course, has the scenario written. Again, it has all the lock combinations. You want to set your 3-digit lock to 371, your 4-digit lock to 5234. The ABC or the word lock is going to spell the word graph, so Graph. Your directional lock is up, right, left, and then down. And the key locks, although this one says teacher desk area, you're going to see that within the folder there's multiple versions. I am doing this for a particular teacher and used her classroom as the backdrop for it. Since it's in a Word document, you'll have to download it anyway. So when you download it, you can move the objects around to make it look like your classroom. And you could certainly still use the lines in which I have constructed. This was really intended so that the keys are hidden in 5 different locations. That way you can have some variety and students aren't just following suit rather than solving the puzzle. They have to actually solve their own personal one. Our keys with these breakout boxes are number specific, so that way these keys will be stored in an envelope of some kind and hidden throughout the room. You'll notice I did 5 because I have 5 breakout boxes. So we'll get to that in just a minute, and you can see at least one of them. All right, so let's talk about the 3-digit lock. The 3-digit lock is actually some state assessment questions. The students have to answer these 3 questions, and they'll get their answers, and each of their answers will then tell them the code to the 3-digit lock. The slope intercept one is for our 4-digit lock. I will say that this is a little bit more going to be on you in terms of your preparation. You're going to want to highlight the slope. I hope you can see my mouse of this one here, because if you remember, it's 5, 2, 3, 4. So I use the invisible ink to basically circle this, which gives them the 5 and the 2. You could choose any of the others as well to get the 3 and the 4. I believe I used the y-intercept of number 8 and just highlighted that one because that gives us a 3, and then use the y-intercept of number 9, which gives me that 4. And so that's how I got the 4-digit code. The word clue, again, is a graph in which students have to graph the following lines and then write down the letters that the line will pass through to unlock the word. They'll want to use a straight edge, and I would certainly make sure that they are provided on their tables for them. So they'll draw these 5 lines, and they will actually pass through the certain letters that spell out graph. Now, obviously, it doesn't put them in the exact order, so they're going to have to actually place those correctly or unscramble the letters in order to get the word graph. But most kids enjoy that little bit of a challenge. Some other things that they have, I wanted to show you that key. I did provide an answer as well as a student copy. The student copy will simply have the coordinate graph. It'll also have the picture of the classroom behind it, and then it'll have 2 equations at the bottom. That's all the information that they are given, actually. So hopefully they will figure out the fact that they need to graph the 2 lines, and where the 2 lines intersect is in fact where the key should be found. In this particular example, this teacher has a bank of windows that are right here along this wall, and so that key is found near the windows. I'm sorry, and this is a student copy if you wanted to just see, and you'll just notice that there's the 2 equations that are listed there. The direction clue is another interesting one. Basically asking students, as you know in the state assessment, they ask them frequently which ones are linear and nonlinear, at least at the 8th grade level. And although this particular one could be used for advanced 7th graders or pre-algebra students, it is an important note that they know the difference between linear and nonlinear. So students will select the ones in which, now I would not cut these apart. I would actually leave them intact because that way they're in the proper order. So they just need to figure out that this x squared plus 2 is not 1, so they'd x that out. They'd x out this cube root function. They'd x out this quadratic again, and they'd x out this function here down here at the bottom, being that x is in the denominator and is no longer linear. So that gets them the direction. If you were, I'm sorry, I could scroll to the bottom. You can look at the back of these and it'll give you the directional clues as well. So in terms of setup, when we're doing this, I would highly recommend that what you do is you have all of your things printed ahead of time. So want to print each of the student copies. If you're going to hide the locks in 5 different locations, you're going to want all 5 student copies. I also would just recommend that for every class that you have a copy for every group. For example, if you have 5 groups in each class and you have 5 classes in the day, you're going to want 25 sets of worksheets already preset and put in either an envelope or a folder. That way, especially if your classes are run much like ours, where we have 35 to 40 minutes with an activity such as this, the students will sit down at their table. I would have the large box and the small box located on their table. They would have all their materials right there, their ruler, if they're going to use a calculator. Certainly they should be bringing their own writing utensil, and an envelope or a folder that has all of the worksheets in which they're going to need. So you'll need, inside that envelope, you'll need the directional clue, you'll need the word clue, the key locator, the New York State questions for your 3-digit lock, and the slope intercept worksheet, which gives them their 4-digit lock. The directional clue needs to be done 2-sided, so make sure you do print that 2-sided. Then you're going to also need to use your invisible ink. Remember, we talked about that on the slope intercept worksheet, and color the numbers 5, 2, 3, 4. I usually do that in the answer spot. That way they have to answer the question. You're going to want to place the small invisible light within the small box, and that's all that's required inside there. And then latch it with the 3-digit lock. This way, they are forced to answer those state assessment questions in order to proceed or to finish this entire task. The 3-digit lock, of course, is on that small box, and then that gets them that invisible ink so that they can get to the 4-digit lock. The other tasks that students can do while some students are working on the 3-digit lock or the 4-digit lock, in that way, people are off task. You want to place the breakout paper and other incentives if you want to put candy, or sometimes teachers will make a note that they get some kind of bonus points or homework passes or something like that inside the large box. Then you'll place the large hasp around it and attach the 4-digit lock, the key lock, the directional lock, and the word lock. You'll want to hide the key in the appropriate spot. Again, this particular one, the first key, is actually hidden in the teacher area someplace. But like I said, for another teacher, I did multiple areas. Some helpful hints are included here that I usually tell my teachers that it might be worth your time to look at, and how you can present this task to your students, and some things, pointers, how to read the locks and things like that that might help you as well. I do have some follow-up questions. I usually like to end with 5 minutes at the end, so teachers can follow up with their students and ask some questions, such as how did the use of lines and your knowledge of linear equations helps you to solve it? And what's one thing you would do differently if you did this breakout again? You'll be surprised at the answers that students will give you. Attached within this document are all the things in which you'll need. In fact, hyperlinks to those documents, so this is at least a convenient location to harness all of the content. I hope this helps. Have fun.